Right. So in the second lesson, we were talking about the system development life cycle, and we get to know what is about a system. If I'm recapping the things, right, and we learn about the basic elements of the system and what are the what are the types of information system that we have, right? So we have manual systems and computer-based information systems. Then we discuss about the differences between those two, and then we jumped up to the system development life cycle, or like the system development process. So in the system development process, we were talking about these six elements. So like we were ending like we were pausing the session in last week from the testing and debugging, as I remember. So in the SDLC, the first thing that we do is the identifying the requirements that we need. So we use different kinds of information gathering methods to do or to identify the requirements, right? And then we design the solution, right? So designing in the sense, like designing everything regarding the system, like the interfaces, like the test cases, and about the algorithms are going to how the algorithms are going to happen. All these designing will take place, right? Then the major part, the coding will happen. So during the coding, the program as well as the database will be made, right, using a specific programming language, as well as with the help of a database management system. Then after, once the system is done, we did the testing and debugging, right? So debugging means like clearing out the bugs, right? Or the errors in the program. So to do that, in the SDLC, they have introduced you four different types of testing methods, like unit testing, where we test the small parts, or like the task which is given to the programmers individually. Then we do integration testing, where we integrate some of the units together, and we or the project team is just testing whether it is have any errors, right? So once the integration happens successfully, or like tested successfully, then all the integration will be collected together and form the entire system. Then they are asked to test, or like according to the test cases that we have designed, we will or the project team will test the entire system together, right? So once it is successfully tested, then the system will be given to the client to see whether he is getting a solution as per his requirement. So that is what we call acceptance testing. So in the acceptance testing, client can see and experience and have an idea whether he is given a correct solution for his problem or for his requirement, right? So it is the place that we have end the class last session. We are going to go from this point onwards, where we are going to talk about how a tested system, or how a accepted uh, system by the client is going to deploy. Right now, so far, it's like the project team is creating the system in their company or in their workplace, right? Now, and it is given to the client, and so the acceptance testing happened in a successful manner. Now, the project team is there to deploy the system or to install the system, right? So when they are trying to deploy it, there are many ways that they can deploy the system. And what you have to remember is when they are going to deploy the system and there is a system which is the existing one already operates in the premises or in the place that we are going to introduce the new system, right? So ඒගොල්ලෝ කරගෙන යන සිස්ටම් එක තාම තියෙනවා. ඒ තියෙනකොට තමයි අපි දැන් අලුත් සිස්ටම් එකක් ගිහිල්ලා ෆික්ස් කරන්න හදන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ට පුරුදු කරවන්න හරි ඉන්ස්ටෝල් කරන්න හරි හදන්නේ. Right? So now there are ways that the existing system is taken out and letting the new system to flow into the organization. So those are the ways that we are going to talk today. So there are 4 ways that they have introduced us. So like 4 methods, like direct deployments are there, parallel deployments are there, and pilot deployments are there, as well as paced deployments are there. So what are these? Now, when it comes to the direct deployment, now it is about taking out the old system away entirely and the new system is given to be used, right? So let's say as an example, we are trying to replace a fingerprint system instead of manually signing attendance system. So far they are maintaining their attendance in a particular CR book. So they are writing the name and writing the arrival time and then do a signature for that. Then when they are leaving, they mark the departure in time and make the signature in it, right? So when the fingerprint system is doing a direct deployment, it means the project team will ask to, okay, get rid of the book. We don't need the book anymore. You got a brand new fingerprint system. So you put your finger and mark the attendance as well as the leaving, right? When you are coming and going from the organization, right? So now no book is using, it's only the new system that's going to use. So the advantage is like people or the user will be able to experience the new system from the date it is being installed, right? But there's a huge risk as well as it's going to be a huge disadvantage as well in case if they got a failure within the new system. The old system is not there, so they don't have anything as a backup, so they are going to stuck with the business process or the task that they are doing, right? So in case if the now we are like get rid of the CR book we are signing, so we just they are to use the fingerprint system, so for some reason it is not working, right? So then that will be a problem. Or like fingerprint system is deployed correctly and now it is operating in the organization, and someday like in a very close day that they have deployed, a fingerprint system malfunctioned, so they don't have any other backup because they have get rid of the sign-in book already. They only have the what we call the fingerprint system. So when you are doing a direct deployment, that means you have to be very sure about the data that you are going to deal with and the reliability and sustainability of the system, right? So then it won't be a very big matter, but in case if it is like going to act in a critical system, right, then it's better you always have a backup. Otherwise, it will be a huge information loss as well as it will cost you many in case of recovering that particular thing, right? So anyway, the direct deployment says take out the old system and place the new system. That's how it happens. And when it comes to the parallel deployment, now parallel deployment means the organization have to carry out the old system as well as the new system simultaneously at the same time, right? So when they are carrying it out simultaneously, that means in the very same time, for a certain amount of period, users are getting double their work, because they have to do the same work in the old system as well as in the new system. Now if you take the same example, replacing a fingerprint machine, I'm sorry, replacing the sign-in book from a fingerprint machine. So if it is fingerprint machine is deployed according to the parallel deployment. So the project team will ask you to maintain the sign-in book as well as inputting the data into the fingerprint system. So each and every worker should provide their attendance to the fingerprint system, as well as they have to do the signature on the book as they have done so far, right? So it will double the work, but that's going to be a disadvantage. But at the same time, it's going to be like in case of new system is being malfunctioned, it's going to, like, they are going to be a backup, since they are doing it on the book as well, right? So parallel deployment has those advantages and disadvantages when we considering. So that is what we call parallel deployment. So like, it doesn't mean that we have to carry out the old system and the new system like too much together. Once we are like sure with it, like, or once we are satisfied and once we are confident with the new system, so the organization will be able to get rid of the old system and they can continue the new system. So but for some period amount, they have to do both the ways to ensure until they got a insurance regarding a new system, right? And when it comes to the pilot deployment, it's a different kind of approach. Now think about your school. Now think about a school is having two sections, which we call primary section and the secondary section. From grade 1 to grade 5, it's a primary section. From grade 6 to grade 13, it's a secondary section, right? So in the pilot deployment, what the project team is doing is that they will choose a part of the organization. If it is a business organization, they will go for the department. Like anyway, they are going to consider a part of the system. Like when we are having a primary section and the secondary section, project team can focus on the primary section. Then what they are doing is they will provide the entire system to the primary section and will ask them to carry out their work regarding that system using the newly created one. The secondary section is still going on the old way, right? So the same organization, a pilot part or the chosen department or the chosen area will be given to execute their work using the new system, that is the pilot project, and the rest of the organization will operate in using the old system until the pilot project or the pilot system is ensuring the success, or like it is getting confidence or gaining confidence regarding the operation, right? So that is what we call pilot, right? So the primary section will be the pilot project or the pilot place where I carry out the new system. They don't use the old system, they will use the new system, but the secondary section will use the old system until primary section says, okay, this particular system is good and we are good to go, right? So then after, once the primary section says it is okay, so then it will be applied to the all other sections in the school, like according to my example. So in generally, a part of an organization will be given the new system, and once they confirm it is good and it is good to go, then all other rest of the department will be given the new system to be used, right? So the advantage is, if they got anything wrong, or like in case if the system got an error, a majority of the organization will not be affected of it. But definitely the pilot project will be affected, because for the pilot place, in my example, the primary section is not using the old method or the the old system when they start to use the new one, right? So that particular part will fail, right? Or they will be in trouble. But rest of the organization will be functioning according to the old system, right? The advantage is, the people who are experiencing the pilot program, they can inform or train the people who have not experienced the new system. So the company can save the training cost, because it's the company employee is going to practice the other employees, because that particular employee was there in the pilot program, right? So that kind of advantages can be taken with the pilot deployment. And the last one is called the pace deployment. Now, pace deployment means the new system will be divided into phases, right? The first phase, second phase, third phase, likewise. And one of those phases will be applied to the entire organization. So this time, all the components of the system will not be installed into the organization, but a part of it or a phase of it, right? So that part will be experienced. Right now, if you take an example, if an organization has made a system and it has controlling the purchases, maintaining the sales, and as well as maintaining the stocks, right? So what they are doing is, first they give the purchases part from the new system to be applied to the entire organization. So once the organization experience the purchasing part or the phase, then the sales phase or another phase will be applied to the entire organization, right? So likewise, step by step, with the time, the new system will be applied into the organization, right? That is what we call pace deployment. So it happens step by step. Today, or like for this week, there will be one part of the system. In the next week, there will be another part will be added now. So two parts are there. So likewise, the entire system will get deployed with the time, pace by pace. Right. Did you got that, people? Terunada? Right. Okay. Yes. Let's note the things which are the important one. So yeah, have the heading deployment of the system.
So what's the most efficient out of
Didn't get you, Minu.
So what's the most efficient out of that?
Efficient. Now it's like this, Minu. Efficient means it's according to your requirement, Minu. Now, if you are thinking about the time that it takes to deploy, then definitely it's going to be the direct deployment, because direct deployment will deploy the entire system at once, taking out the old system. But efficiency cannot be made, like cannot be decided just thinking about the installation time, right? So
Like
sometimes,
with the installation time and like how much work can you do? Like parallel deployment is like
yeah, yeah. So that's why I'm telling you it's based on their requirement there. Now, if you think about the banking system, direct deployment is not a, like it will be the worst deployment method for a banking system, right? If you think about an e-banking system, so ඒගොල්ලෝ අලුත් එකක් ගන්න යනවා නම් පරණ එක හිමිහිට අස් කරලා තමයි නැත්නම් parallel එකක් ගිහිලා තමයි that will be good for them. Otherwise it will be a huge problem. If you think about the core system of a bank, that will be a very big problem, right? කියන්නේ bank එක ඇතුලේ වැඩ කරන system එක, banking network එකක් නේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒකට ඒගොල්ලෝ direct deployment ගියොත්, in case if they are find a fault or some particular thing, they will be in a very big problem position, right? So because of that, like we have to think what are the way that we are going to use in the deployment, right? So deployment of the system and yeah, it's better you write the very first line. Seran, pace deployment, if you think about the accuracy level, no, accuracy cannot be argued with the pace deployment neither, Seran. Accuracy පැත්ත ගත්තොත් ඒක accuracy කියලා නෙමෙයි අපිට අරගන්න වෙන්නේ. pace කියන එක more safe, right? It is more secure, right? Even the like in other than the direct deployment, all three paces, all three methods are secure. හැම වෙලාවෙම backup එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකෙත් ඒ කියන්නේ direct එක තමයි insecure එක. Then after pilot, මොකද pilot එක fail වුණොත් ඒගොල්ලන්ට option එකක් නැති වෙලා යනවා. Right? And ඊළඟට security අඩු වෙන්නේ pace එකේ. Security හොඳටම තියෙන්නේ parallel එකේ. Right? So security wise ගත්තොත් parallel deployment තමයි most secured method. And then the pace, then the pilot, and very last the direct. Right? Security aspect again. Right. So after the first line, you can say there are different deployment approaches, and put a comma, then you can go for the direct deployment. Yeah, Dulagi, when it comes to the advantages and disadvantages of the pace deployment, now pace deployment is like we are taking a part of the system and putting it in the organization. No? So if that part fails, then again, they don't have any alternative, right? ඒතකොට හිතන්නකෝ sales, purchasing, inventory කියන තුනම තියෙන තැනක sales ටික handle කරනවා system එකේ අලුත් කොටස පාවිච්චි කරලා. So if that fails, sales is going to be in trouble, right? So that is going to be a disadvantage. And again, when it comes to the advantages, users will be able to like mix up with the new system in a easy manner. එකපාරට ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඔක්කොම අරගෙන කලබල වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ටිකෙන් ටික පුරුදු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Step by step they can use to the new system, right? That is an advantage of a paced deployment, right? Okay, so the first point is about the deployment. The second point is there are different deployment approaches. Then you can put number 1. and you have to go with the explanation, right, as well as the example. So direct deployment, entire thing.
So what can be the average time period from one phase to another phase in phase?
It depends on the way they are getting it, Minul. It's like we can't fix a time like you are given 1 month, like not likewise. Like when a one pace is given, when that pace is experience inside the organization and they are satisfied with it, then only we can introduce the second pace. Like we can't rush it to them because like when it comes to the system development life cycle and when we are doing a project on behalf of the client, we should always act on their easiness, right? If he propose, if the client says I need this deployment to be done in the base deployment, so then upon their agreement you have to do it as they want. Karanta දීලා you can negotiate, right? Because අපිට කෙලින්ම clientම අතහැරලා ඉන්න බෑ, but you can negotiate like if the client is requesting this has to be done on this particular manner, then you can say okay, we can provide like month by month we can do a pace deployment. So if the time period is not sufficient, then definitely the client will say it is not sufficient for the user to get used to it. Then they need much like more time regarding the base deployment. So then yes, project team has to consider about it, right? But no one can strict things to a certain amount of time period, right? It's upon the negotiation in between them. එතකොට project එක complexness වැඩි වෙන්න it pace will take more time, right? Okay, so when you are done with direct deployment, tell me. I'm going to give you the parallel deployment parts. Okay, one is done. How about others? Right, so regarding the pace parallel deployment, you have to go with the entire thing, people. So go with the entire thing because it has the important parts only. Yeah, people, it's rumbling over here. Like, if it is the same at your place, be very safe when you are participating in the lesson, right? Be very careful when you are dealing with these devices. Um Now it's like this, Seven. It won't travel through Wi-Fi, but like it's about uh, what the polarity, නේද? ආරෝපණ ගැනනේ අපි කතා කරන්නේ. So whenever you are using an electrical device, that affects not the Wi-Fi or any other thing, right? Lightning නැති වෙන්නේ ධනාරෝපණයි ඍණාරෝපණයි වල difference එකක් නිසානේ. So it is the effect that to invite a lightning into your house, right? Right. Are we done? Okay. I'm moving to the pilot deployment. And you know what to be written, right? So yes, these things plus the things in the next page as well, right? Yeah. We will just give me a second. I'll be right back. If you are done with the pilot deployment, go for the phase deployment, the entire thing, right? about the things. Yes. So people who are done with the pilot deployment, go for the phase deployment. And if you are done with this, you have to go with the base deployment as well. Right. Can anyone confirm whether you can hear me clearly or not? I shift to the microphone, like the headset.
Second, yes.
Right. Right. Are we done? Right. Now, since I have shift into my headphone, if in case if you can't hear me clearly, just let me know, people, right? All right. Is there anyone still writing?
Okay, so let's move to the maintenance of the system. Right. Now, when it comes to the maintenance of the system, it is like the service that they provide after the installation or the deployment, right? So like when the deployment has happened, so they are officially done with creating the system or like developing the system, right? So then after there will be some maintenance, right? In case in different kinds of scenarios, like if the company has some new user requirement, so it has to be added into the system again. So it's going to be a thing that we are carrying out through the maintenance phase, because since that system has been already deployed, it means we are done with the developing and all these things. So those little parts which are requested to be developed is going to maintain through the maintenance phase, as well as when uh, like any system upgradations, right? Or like take in new technologies, if the company need to like absorb new technologies into their organization, if it connects with the system, so it's again we have to look into that as the project team, and it is again considered at under the maintenance, right? And there can be some issues where the quality assurance teams uh, would not be captured, but will occur in the future, or like in the present, where when the users are working with the system, right? So when that kind of things are happen, it is being addressed to the project team, and then project team will involve to make those things in a correct way. So it is again taken as the maintenance part, right? So maintenance occurs on those three scenarios, right? Okay, so regarding the maintenance of the system, that is the last part or the last step of the system development life cycle. So put down the heading and let's copy these things. Yeah, so you started from this point to the very end. Write it down. Okay, one is done. How about others? Right. So let's jump into the models. Now, so far we have discussed about the general specification, or like like I said in the starting of the lesson, we were talking about how to create a kite. සරුංගලයක් හදන විදිහ ගැන කතා කරේ. Right? So there are many ways, or like many models that a kite can be. Right? At the end of the day, it is a kite. Right? So likewise, as there is a system, when you are creating a system, there is always those 6 steps are following, but there are ways of those 6 steps are being followed, right? So those different ways are defined or are introduced with these models. And there are many different models regarding the system development life cycle. So here we are going to, here you have given 4 types of them and describe only 2 of them, as I remember. Yes. So the first one, the waterfall model, the iterative incremental model, prototyping, and spiral. Right? There are many like rapid application, agile development. There are many. Right? When you come to the A level, you will be learn about these things under the ICT. But here we are going to talk about the waterfall model as well as the iterative incremental model. Right? Now, when it comes to the waterfall model, it is given the name as waterfall because the system development happens in the very same way. Like in a waterfall, like water will fall like from one step to another, or like one rock to another. Like once the water has flown onto a lower rock, it won't be able to go to the upper rocks, right? Same happens in the waterfall model. So in the picture you can see there are like identification of requirements, planning the solution, implementing means like the development here, right? And testing and debugging, deployment and maintenance are there. So if a particular project team is using a waterfall model to do their project, the client should be informed first. This is done according to the waterfall model. So waterfall model means once you are done with some phase or some step, there are no going back, right? So that means when you identify the requirements, if it is done officially, so it is done. User can't tell any other requirements at the middle because that phase is gone, that step is done. So they plan the solution according to the requirements that they have identified, right? So user can't pop up, okay, I need this requirement as well, I have this particular new need as well. No, it is not going to go with the model of waterfall, right? So for that reason, we say the waterfall model is suitable for the systems which can define its requirement concretely, right? Otherwise, waterfall model is like going to arise a lot of problems. And again, due to that reason, lots of project teams are not using the waterfall model, right? So here it gives you the important facts, right? So the waterfall model consists of several stages of linear development. So linear development means one after the other. The development happens one after the other. To develop a system using waterfall model, the following need consideration, right? So the first thing, first identify requirement, right? So that is what we do in any SDLC, but once it is done, right? Complete one stage before going to the next phase, as I told you, right? Because there are models where we can go for the other phases without completing the previous phase, right? And the result of the developed system is found at the final stage. Yeah, so like if I match it into the creating a kite, so you will see the kite at the end of the stage, right? So an actual product client දකින්න හම්බෙන්නේ at the very end. Before that, it is not been like client cannot have an idea about the final product, right? So because of these limitations, as I told you previously, it's good only for projects which can specify their requirements concretely, right? And when it comes to the iterative incremental model, so iterative incremental model is also used as a system development model, and they used to do it in an iterative manner. Like iteration means happening again and again. So from the very first thing, as the very first thing, they identify the requirement, then they plan, then they analyze and design, then they test, then they evaluate that, right? Then they go for the deployment, right? So like uh, it's like creating a kite, like step by step. Step by step means like this. මුලින්ම අපි අඳුන ගන්නවා, alright, to create a kite we need like නේද ඉරටු හතරක් හරි නැත්නම් sticks දෙකක් හරි අපිට අවශ්‍යයි. Then we need the threads, right? So they identify the requirements, they plan how to do that, then they analyze and design it, then they test, right? ඒතර මුලින්ම නේද structure එක හදලා බලනවා, structure එක okayද. Then they evaluate the structure. So then we are going to think about, yeah, කොහොමද අපි නේද සව් quality කාලවල එයාව ලස්සන කරන්න කියන එක. Then we plan කොහොමද අලවන්නේ, මොන පාටෙන්ද අලවන්නේ, මොන විදිහටද අලවන්නේ, right? So we analyze it, then we test it. නේද test කරනවා කියන්නේ අපිට අලවලව බලන්න බෑ. සමහරලාට පොඩි structure එකක් අපි බලලා කොහොම හරි testing method එක okay වෙනවා, then we evaluate it. So likewise, when it applies to the computerized system, first they identify the requirements and they plan it, all right? And they analyze the things that they have identified and then test that thing, right? Then they evaluate it. So likewise, the design and analyzation part will happen iteratively. Meanwhile, the things are full and final, can be taken to deploy, that means develop, right? Then later they can do the implementation as well, right? So සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට මේ පින්තූර දිහා බැලුවම ටිකක් පැටලෙනවා වගේ වෙනවා, right? Identification of requirement is okay, planning is okay, analyze and designing is okay. So implementation is the arrow which indicate this, right? Which happens at the very last, as the very last phase, right? So deploy can අපරකින්න මේගොල්ලෝ ඔය වචන දෙක පටලනවා. Yeah, just a second, people. I need to have some confirmation regarding this. Yes, as I thought, Yeah, people, yeah, what they are given in the textbook is not uh, correct, right? It goes like this. මේ පැත්තට තියෙන ඊතලේ වැරදි, right? So when you are drawing it, just draw this diagram, right? So like identifying requirements, planning, analyze and designing, right? Implementation, testing, evaluate. So that will happen iteratively. At the very last, they will deploy, right? So what is iteratively happening is planning, analyze, implementation, testing, and evaluation, right? So it's like ඒ කියන්නේ අතරමැද්දේ client මොනා හරි වෙනස්කමක් ගෙනාවොත් it can be planned, it can be analyzed, it can be implemented, then tested and evaluated. එතකොට අර කස්ටමර්ත් එක්ක නිතරම ඒක ඕකේ කරගෙන ඔක්කොම requirements ටික satisfy වුණායින් පස්සේ තමයි we are going for the deployment, right? So මුලින්ම අඳුනගන්න requirements ටික we plan it and design it and implement it and test it, then we evaluate it with the customer as well as within the project. Then again, if anything new requirements are there, so that happens again. So once everything is okay, then they can go to the deployment, right? Seren, like differences means like this. The major difference is in the waterfall model, like they said, once you given the requirements, you can't change, right? ඒක හරියට කාර් එකක් හදන්න කියලා client කෙනෙක් request කරාම waterfall method model එකට නම් යන්නේ. So client should tell, okay, I need this car, it's a two-seated one, so this is what is going to be its color, these are the tire size, and this is the spec that I need. So once it is given, you can't change it because project team is working according to that particular requirements, right? එතකොට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට cost cut කරලා project team එක deviate කරලා එක එක කියන්නේ අපි ඔයාලට කියනවා hire and fire system එක කියලා. කියන්නේ we take team to the plan and designing. Once it is done, the report will be taken and that particular group is gone. So then the next development guys will be there. So we are giving the plan to them, so they develop, they hand over the program, and they are gone, right? So likewise, because of that nature, they won't be able to go back and do the new requirement things. මොකද ඒ කට්ටිය නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ අලුත් requirement එකක් ආවොත් design කරලා plan කරලා ඒ ටික එන්න ඕනනේ. So it cannot be done. But when it comes to the iterative development model, it is possible because that is why iteration is there, right? So the major difference is that. And when it comes to the cost, waterfall method will incur you less cost, but iterative method will incur you more cost because you have to, the requirements can be changed, then those can be addressed, those can be evaluated and tested, so it will incur you more cost. And again, when it comes to the waterfall model, the final output, you won't be able to see the final output until the end. But in here, client can always experience what the output is. මේ වෙනකම් මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා හරියට දැනගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So those kind of differences are there, right? Okay, so with that, we are at the end of the at the system development life cycle and the end of the 7th lesson, right? So let's quickly write this down, right? So we can move to the new lesson since we got some time, right? Okay, so I want you to copy system development lifecycle models and write down these 4 because they have given you 4 types, And regarding waterfall and iterative model, let's write the important things only. Let me know when you are done, people. Okay, are we done? Right. So let's take up to this point. So in the waterfall model, write the first sentence that is important, saying it is a linear development, using its linear development. Yeah, it's better you go with the entire thing, people. It has the important parts only. And plus you have to draw the model as well. All right, one is done. How about others? Okay. Okay, Saran, you keep drawing. Right. So the paper, are you done with drawing? Right. So we can move to the iterative incremental model. Yes. Is there anyone still doing it? Right. So let's go to the iterative incremental part. So have the heading and let's write about this and then let's come to the drawings, right? So iterative incremental model, the heading. Yeah, it's better you write it from top to bottom, right? Then I'll show you the model to be drawn, right? Don't draw the thing on the textbook. Let me know when you are done, people, so I can show you the picture. Right, one is done. Is there anyone who is copying from the screen? Can I know that? No one is copying from the screen, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you the diagram. So this is the one. Yeah, and when you are done with the diagram, you can leave the session, people. So since it is 4:30, we are going to start the new lesson by next week, right? So when you are done, you can leave, right? So have a nice weekend, people. I'll see you on the next day for the same time, right? So
Thank you, sir. Isaac.
I will be here. Yes, right. Okay. I will be here, and you can copy this and go, right?